This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is the week review of October 9th, 2021. Was that your first wave ever, or have I just never noticed you doing that?
Well, I always wave goodbye, and I've occasionally waved hello, so I was feeling friendly today, so I'm waving hello as well.
I never, actually, because I'm probably always staring like this at my screen, and I've never seen you out of the corner of my eye, because I have like four screens for the podcast, and Phil's video feed is on two of them, so maybe I missed it last time. Anyway, as Phil wrote for me, the Genie is out of the lamp today. So we're going to talk a lot about the Genie Plus, Lightning Lane, and the confusion surrounding that and what a lot of people seem to be not being able to get. It took me a while to think through these things and how to relate it to old Disney. So I think I understand it now. So there's a lot of rules that we're going to probably have to learn anyway as we go through these things. We'll talk basically that. I think that's basically the show, and then the remainder of your trip report when we talk about Universal. Because I think as we start seeing Disney start nickel and diming everybody, we're going to see a lot more comparisons to Universal because it's going to be the second choice, or maybe the 1A and 1B choice, I guess, to Disney World right now, especially with Epic Universe opening in sometime in the next 4 years.
Exactly. And I think as they take away some of the perks of staying on site at Disney, it makes it that much easier to either add a few days or just do a Universal trip instead. So,
I mean, as I've heard you describe what your I guess split vacation, whatever you want to call it, how easy it was and how much fun you guys were having. I've seen on social media and Discord, or like all the different cool things that you were doing. I'm like, I need to do my next vacation that way eventually, because it seems like it's a lot cheaper also. That being said, let's go right away. And are we doing a giveaway today, Phil? Did we decide to start that? Ooh,
I put it in there. We could kick off with the giveaway announcement.
Why don't you go ahead? Because this was your idea, and you're supplying the prizes. So
I am. So as another way of trying to boost our YouTube subscriptions, we are going to have a bit of a giveaway. I was able to pick up a couple extra on the October 1st at Magic Kingdom, so hopefully I can hold these up to the camera properly. But I have one of the posters that they gave away.
Back up and to your right.
And my right.
There it is.
So they're actually pretty nice. They're kind of shiny and glossy,
sexy,
and stuff like that. And then also one of the 50th maps and stuff like that were apparently hard to get and stuff like that. So I got some extra of these. So the winner will receive both of these items. And the way we will
two for one. Oh my goodness.
2 for 1, I know.
Look at that.
The way we will be giving it out is that you need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and then comment on this video, letting us know that you are subscribed and that you're commenting. And we will pick from the people that comment and have subscribed. And
yes,
I think we will. We're trying to get to that 100 count number, so I guess that'll be maybe the cutoff. Once we get our custom URL, we will give that away. The URL will be our prize.
Yeah, our prize. Yes. So if you're listening and you haven't done so, please go over to the YouTube channel and subscribe. Even if you don't watch, we like the little subscription and the thumbs up. And I guess for those that are listening, Phil described it pretty well. They're nice and shiny if you haven't seen them already. And if you're probably listening to this, you probably have seen them already. But just in case, they're very, very frameable and collectible. I think they're really nice. So, okay, before we go to the news, because the news is basically going to be one half of this show with an Attractionality in the middle, we're going to go to the DCI to kick off the show. Not much has changed since the big jump last week. I think we're up 0.33%. At this point, I have a list on screen, Phil, of what's kind of changed. It's basically more of the same. This is labeled October 1st. So nothing's really changed since last week. I think there's been some minor background changes on there, and Matt hasn't listed anything out. I mean, 0.3 of a point, so not much is popping off there. So I guess what's the new metric? What are we waiting for? We hit 70. It can't be just 80 at this point. Are we waiting for like 90% back? Is that the next like celebration milestone?
That might be. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, well, I guess we'll see how long it takes. If we slowly creep up, maybe we'll need to celebrate at 75. But I think at this
how we go. I think at this point it's a lot of the hotel openings at this point, correct? Right, and there's only a couple more shows like Indy and stuff like that are opening, but I don't think that will impact the score overall. So I think we have to, as usual, we have to get a Matt on in a couple weeks to give us the walkthrough. How do we get to 90? What needs to come back to hit those extra next 15 points or something else like that? All right, Phil. What we've been waiting for the last, I don't know what, months, ever since they announced Genie and Genie Plus and Lightning Lane. All the information is here, and the two foremost experts on Disney World planning that actually don't do it for a living you're listening to. So we're here to explain how it actually works because, we have all the inside knowledge on how to do this. So, Phil, take us away. What is in the news? What got announced this week?
Yeah, so, and I think this is, we want to focus on this because we really started this podcast because we love the planning aspect of trips, and this changes a lot of how we plan and strategize and all that sort of stuff for how we're going to do our trips. So the news came out that launching on October 19th will be the new Disney Genie system at Walt Disney World, along with Genie Plus, and they slightly name change. It's now the individual lightning lanes versus the individual attraction selection. So those are the couple rides in each park that you pay separately for that are not included with Genie Plus.
So the ill, that's how you get ill or sick.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
paying extra money, right? Getting
Exactly.
all those attractions.
I feel like there's some pun with the old Beastie Boys album, "License to Ill" or something like that. But
I mean, what was it? The IA individual attraction selections, right? I mean, I saw that abbreviation, and I'm pretty good with like Disney abbreviations. I mean, there's some that always get past me, but I'm like, what are people talking about? IAS? What? I missed that one completely, and I had to Google it.
Yep. So, and for those of you that aren't aware, so Genie Plus is basically going to grant you access to the Lightning Lane, which is the new name for the Fast Pass queues. So the way to skip the line. Genie Plus will cover most of the attractions for a one-time fee of $15 per person per day, which you can either do just per day, so you don't have to do it for your whole trip. If you do it beforehand, though, you do have to do it for your entire trip. The individual lightning lanes, as I mentioned, are a couple attractions per ride, per park, and those are separate from Genie Plus. You have to pay a one-time fee to ride those rides once. We did find out a little bit of price range for those. They will range from $7 to $15, and they will vary by ride and by day. So some of the examples they gave out was the weekend days were a couple dollars more than the weekdays. And, we could go through, I think, the rides just so everyone is aware.
They're up on the screen.
So Magic Kingdom, the individual lightning lanes are Seven Dwarfs Mine Train and Space Mountain. Epcot is Remy's Ratatouille Adventure and Frozen Ever After. Disney's Hollywood Studios is Star Wars Rise of the Resistance and Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. And Disney's Animal Kingdom will have Avatar Flight of Passage and Expedition Everest.
Let's stop right there. Any of those surprise you, Phil?
Well, they are a little different than some of the rumors we heard before. I think one thing that surprised me is when you see like Epcot, it's two of the family-friendly rides. When you have these parks where there's not a ton of attractions and you're taking two of the rides that everybody can ride and making people pay if they want to skip the lines. But we'll see.
I'll give you a counter argument to that.
Okay.
So Disney obviously wants there to be just standby only, right? Mm-hmm. It allows the lines to go faster. People are happier if they're moving slightly rather than standing still because, fast passes kind of go by them type of thing.
Yep.
So if Remy's and Frozen are locked into the ILL, right, meaning only people are going to be spending cash to get into those. They're not accessible by the Genie Plus Lightning Lane.
Correct.
That means there's going to be fewer people going through them, and those lines are going to be moving. And they're also the most popular rides. So Disney's trying to make money, right. And then you're not going to see those lines aren't going to be hung up. So the rides that the families are going to go on, they're not going to be kind of sitting there twiddling their thumbs as much, I guess.
Right.
That's my process.
And we know the rumor was to be Test Track, and I'm wondering if it's because that ride goes down quite a bit, and if there's weather and stuff like that, they just didn't want to deal with that. So those are the rides, just to give you some idea for the pricing. It seemed like Expedition Everest was always listed at the cheapest price, so always at $7. And Rise of the Resistance always seemed to be listed at the top, which is $15 per person per ride.
And you had a comment in Discord that you would actually spend $75 for your family to go on Rise. If this was like my first trip and I'm like, I need to get on, I would probably spend $75 for my family to go on that ride.
Mm-hmm.
Second or third trip, I've been on it once or twice already. I'm not spending $75 for my family to go on that ride.
Yeah, I was a little torn. I'm probably some of it's coming off my trip where we waited in standby for 2 hours.
Sure.
And that's one of the things that one of the details that came out that I think is important is that if you make an ILL, you cannot cancel it and you cannot modify it. So you are stuck with, you have spent that money and either you go on the ride or you don't at your appointment time.
Yep.
So, with Rise, it seemed like some of these days it's running really well and people are getting on 3 and 4 times and the waits were never more than an hour. If it was that day, I wouldn't pay the $75. But if it's a day when it's going down a lot and it's our one day in the park for the next year, I think I would be willing to. So, I think that's the one where I thought I would be willing to just to guarantee it, not wait 2 hours. But if it's a good day for Rise and, I could have got on a couple times, I'd probably be kicking myself afterwards. But
yeah, so let's break this down even further. So right now, if you are listening on screen, you've got Phil and I's wonderful faces, and we're basically staring at the list of the attractions. That it's basically a marketing piece that they sent out that you probably have seen already. So what you need to have to realize is you are only able to get on if you're at the Magic Kingdom, for example, the Seven Dwarfs Mine Train or Space Mountain. The only way you're going to beat the line for this is if you have to pay for it. You cannot use that for the Genie Plus. There's 2 different ways to skip the line. You pay the $15 per person per day to get access to Genie Plus, or you spend individual dollars on the 2 rides that are listed in the ILL. Those are the only way you're skipping in lines in general.
yeah,
And I have no idea how they're going to do guest recovery by handing these things out for free. I don't know how that works. So for the ILL, you're only able to purchase 1 per day for 2 attractions. And I don't know why they say 2, even though because there's only 2 options anyway. But
it's 2 different attractions per day total. So if you have Park Hopper, you could.
Does it reset to the next park?
No,
I know they clarified that.
It's 2 total per day. So let's say at Park Hopper, I could buy 1 for Mine Train if that was the park I was starting at, and 1 for Frozen Ever After. My plan was to hop to Epcot in the second
Gotcha.
day. So it's only 2 total per day. And then when we get into strategy, I think this whole thing is an advantage for people that park hop, but I think we can get to that later.
Okay, well, let's talk strategy then. Unless you wanted, if there's something else that we need to get to first, you think?
Just a couple other maybe little details. One, as we mentioned, even the Genie Plus rides, it's $15 a day. You can only access the Lightning Lane for those rides once per ride per day. There's you can re-ride it if you're willing to stand in the standby, but you can't, even if there's an available Genie Plus time slot, if you've already ridden that ride, you cannot book it again. You can book 1 at a time, and then you can book your next one after you've accessed the ride that you've booked, or 120 minutes later, whichever comes first. And one other thing we're hearing is from some cast members we know is that they're being instructed to be more strict about your return time window. So if you were booked for 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. and you show up at 2:20, you're very likely not to be let in.
The one thing that I was confused about, so go over that again. Go over the 120-minute rule again. I think that's important.
So let's say you're in the park and you want to book your next time, and you really want to ride. You're in Magic Kingdom. You really want to ride Big Thunder Mountain, and it's 11 a.m. The next available time slot for that isn't until 4 p.m. So you take that time slot because when you use Genie Plus, you're only offered the next available slot. You can't really pick. But then if it's already 11, once you get 120 minutes, so 2 hours later at 1 p.m., you can then book another one, even though you haven't used your Big Thunder one, because that's not until 4 p.m. So let's say then at 1 p.m. you check and there's, Tiki rooms available in 20 minutes. So you're able to book that one, go to Tiki room, and then as soon as you use your Tiki room one, you can book another one, even though you haven't used your Big Thunder one, because you're more than 120 minutes past when you booked your Big Thunder one. Basically, what this does is it's confusing, but what it does is it doesn't totally penalize you if there's a ride you really want to do, and the next available time slot isn't for 4 or 5 hours or until the evening.
So this is the way I think about it, because the 120-minute rule basically means that you can't put a placeholder for later in the day and then keep using the system over and over and over again. So it's trying to limit the people that are overusing the system, maybe not overusing the system, but are attempting to go on and on. and sit down, squat on a time later in the day. I think the best use of this. Are we ready for strategy, Phil?
I think so.
The spot for? So this is how I kind of view the whole thing. If anybody out there was a refresher back in the old FastPass Plus days, so basically what you do is go to the park, you pick you do your rope dropping if that's what you're doing. You go through the early morning low wait times. Maybe you're there a half hour before because you're staying on property. You bang through all those type of things. Then immediately, let's say probably around 9 o'clock, you will look for your first Lightning Lane Genie Plus. Whatever's available for you, because you can't choose which one you want. You just have to take what's going to.
And I guess the one thing to maybe add to that is everyone can book their first Genie Plus Lightning Lane at 7 a.m. So whether you're staying on property or not, at 7 a.m., even before the park's open, you can book your first Genie Plus. So you can have one sort of booked before you get into the park.
Wait for it. So the way I always refreshed was I got into the line. You kind of badge in, you get ready. I'm immediately on the app looking for the next one.
Right.
Very rarely, as a family of 5, because it wasn't like I was solo or 2 people where you could usually get some good ones over and over and over again. I just basically dinked and dunked my way through the park, and very rarely did I do any repeats. Maybe like Ariel was a repeat, or I don't know, like teacups. You could probably always get in the old refreshing days over and over again. Not that you really needed FastPass for that, those attractions anyway. But like again, you get your first FastPass Lightning Lane of the day. We're going to need new terminology for all of this. I do not like this whatsoever. You get your first Lightning Lane. When I say get your first Lightning Lane, I mean like the Genie Plus ones. If I'm talking about paid Lightning Lane, I'll say paid, or I'll say something with money attached to it. Anyway, so you're looking at the list. Let me put it back full screen for those that are watching. So I'm staring at this. These are all great rides. These are all the marquee rides that you want to do. And if you could Lightning Lane your way through all of these in a given day, you're having an excellent day at the Magic Kingdom, I think. So I think what you do is you just go in, you go for you book it at 7, you find what you want, you do like the Jungle Cruise, Haunted Mansion, Pirates, one of those, right? Speedway maybe, and then get that for right around, I want to say somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock. I don't know if these are getting, we've seen screenshot of these at like every 15 minutes, kind of like some of the old Fast Passes. So get something there when the park line starts kind of booking up. You could use Touring Plans app to find out where those park busy times are trending. So as soon as that's up right on the big upswing, that's when you book your first Lightning Lane. And then what you just go around, see what's available. Always pick the earliest possible time. So if you could burn all of your Lightning Lanes in a single day, you've had a good day at the Magic Kingdom, I think. Do not book far in advance unless this is like your once-in-a-lifetime trip and you really wanted to go on Jungle Cruise and you wanted to make sure you go on Jungle Cruise.
Yeah.
I think booking it out where you have to worry about your 120-minute mark is you're totally screwing up the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Disney wants people to do, right? That's their rule. So like, you book something for 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's 9 o'clock. Well, now we don't have somebody chewing up the Lightning Lanes anymore, and they're taking you out of the pool essentially for 2 hours.
For 2 hours, yeah, correct.
Yeah, so don't book Lightning Lanes for later in the day. Don't. It's a waste of time, I think.
Yeah, I certainly agree. I mean, I think it's to keep in mind in that first, especially if you have access to that first 30 minutes, might be a good time to take care of one of the individual Lightning Lanes, the paid ones. If you don't want to pay for it,
don't pay for it. Here's why: Paris,
Mine Train or whatever.
Paris is reducing their money already.
I know.
Don't buy it. Don't buy it. But people are going to buy the heck out of it.
Yeah, people are definitely going to buy
Walt
it.
Disney World stuff.
But yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, at 7 a.m. get something for that 9 o'clock hour or whatever, and rope drop a couple things, and then use your first one and badge in and try to get your next one as soon as possible. I think, as much as we can strategize now, until we see a lot of data, we know Len Testa and all them are going to be cranking out all this information. How many people are using Genie Plus? Does it vary by day? Is it like in the slow times you don't really need it, and the busy times you really do, but then there aren't any times available? I don't know. They haven't said if there will be a limited number of Genie Pluses that you can buy. They have said there will be an individual or a limited number of paid individual Lightning Lanes. So for Mine Train, Space Mountain, so those could sell out. So you could find yourself facing a 2-hour wait for Mine Train, and you're like, oh, well, I'll just skip the line. Oh, no, they're all gone. You can't skip the line. So that's something to keep in mind with those. But until we really see this in practice, it's going to be hard to really figure out the strategy. Obviously. But I think your general plan is what, especially for Magic Kingdom, I think definitely makes the most sense.
So here's one thing also. Space Mountain's on there. That's coming off as soon as Tron is open.
Yeah.
That's basically his placeholder for that. Okay, so you had one more tweet here. I just kind of flashed it on the screen real quick because I have a tweet that you did not put in our notes that I wanted to show on. So you were talking about, this is from Ashley Carter, Disney Genie is a free service because there is a free version of it, and it helps you basically plan your day, right? Yep. We talked about that before. There's nothing on there, and there's like you're showing a sample itinerary on Twitter.
Yep.
What I find interesting is an awesome Twitter account, Is Genie Worth It? That was linked in Discord and followed by the likes of like Touring Plans and a bunch of other people. And their tweet let me click on this so we can get a little bit bigger on the screen. It says, yesterday, actual wait times at Disney World were 60% of what was posted at the line entrance. On each ride throughout the day, you could have expected to wait 15 and a half minutes less than what they told you every single time. The question to you, Phil, is would you trust the Genie when he tells you to pay to skip the line? That's a very good question. I like that.
Yeah, so I don't know if I would. I certainly wouldn't rely on that as a whole. For our last trip, we used the Touring Plans Wait app, and it had all the minutes in there. Here's what we really think, here's what's being reported as the actual waits, and here's our recommendation of whether to ride now or wait, which is what is also in the regular Genie, the free service that was in the tweet from Ashley Carter. It has like, okay, here's the time where we suggest you go to this ride because waits will be lower then. We don't suggest you ride this ride now. But also, as you see it scrolling by when it shows Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, it's like, oh, here's his, oh, by the way, would you like to skip the line? It's $8 a person. And I really think you're going to see a lot of people impulse purchase that when they're like, I don't want to wait in this line.
Why would you trust? Like, here's the thing. Disney's corporate America at this point. Bob Chapek loves making his money, right? Mm-hmm. Why would you trust the app that has gamified the system and is asking you to give them money on a impulse basis? They're going to be manipulating the numbers completely. Yep. And we already know they manipulate the numbers just to keep wait times low in other rides, or the artificially inflate wait times to push people in other places to park for crowd control. And I'm okay with that, right? That's perfectly fine. But when you start manipulating wait times just to get more money out of people, that gets a little bit. I thought that should be a little bit above.
I think
Disney,
that's what everybody has to keep in mind is what is the motivation behind what this app is telling you. And like to your point, they are trying to move people around and get to lower crowd areas and spread the crowds. So when they say, "Hey, it's a good time to do Speedway or something like that," I might believe that because they're trying to get me to a lower crowd area. But yeah, to your point of, hey, now's a good time to pay us extra money, then I have my doubts.
All the things are going to be out of whack. That's going to be an interesting because this is what Touring Plans has been doing for God knows how long with all of their data and their app is fantastic. I mean, we're shilling out for Touring Plans. They're not sponsoring our show or anything else like that. We just love their tools.
If they want to sponsor the show, that's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like the tools the tool already does what the Genie does, not Genie Plus, but Genie. Yep. And I don't think I would use. I mean, that's just user-based data that they have, and it's all numbers, right? There's no lie in there. So no, I would never use Genie Plus to create an itinerary for me. I don't think at this point, with the way they're money grabbing the whole thing, I don't think I could trust it.
I'm willing to look at it, and I will be comparing and contrasting to what
of course
Wait's app says. I do like how the app has everything together. It has your ADRs. I mean, we're seeing there. It even has like adds audio in there, so while you're waiting, you can play Pirates of the Caribbean music and stuff like that. So I think it's got a lot of fun stuff in it.
Oh,
yeah. So I think it's a nice addition. You just you can't take it as gospel what's in there. You have to kind of understand the motivation behind it.
If you are trying to elevate your Disney game to a professional touring and planning level, you cannot use the MDE to plan your day. Yep. If, however, you're going because you want to bring the kids and you want to have a good time. I think for those like low key people that are okay seeing a handful of things, I think that it'll do a wonderful job for those type of people. Because
and at the very least, it kind of gives you some advice. Because one of the worst things I hate is when you're in like the Magic Kingdom and you're like, "What should we do now? I don't know. What do you want to do?" At least it kind of says, "Hey." So if you're not willing to kind of do the spreadsheet planning that a lot of us do, it can at least give you somewhat of a guide to follow around and that sort of thing.
I mean, my last trip, we did not have a guide through the day, no fast pass, obviously, and we were using the touring planes app. It's like, okay, what's available? What has the lowest wait times? And then that's how we ping-ponged around the park. We used that to guide our way a little bit.
Yep.
I don't think I would ever use Genie Plus, but I'll still have the MD out for like basically everything. I'll have it out for Lightning Lane. I'll have it out for the kids, keeping them occupied and playing fun things as my battery drains and drains and drains. Even more. So we'll see how much Lightning Lane is on the battery side of things. Anything else on Genie Plus? I feel like we've been talking for about 20 minutes or so.
Maybe just the last point. I kind of hinted at it before that it does work across park hopping. So if say you're starting your day at the Magic Kingdom and you kind of accomplished a bit of what you're doing and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to head over to Epcot for dinner or something like that. While you're in Magic Kingdom, you can book, as long as it's after 2 p.m., which is the hopping time, you can then book a Genie Plus reservation or an ILL at Epcot. So I think for people that are hoppers, it could work out really well that you're like, hey, the next, I'm kind of good with Magic Kingdom. In an hour, there's an opening for, Test Track or something like that at Epcot. Let me book that. And now I'll make my way over to Epcot and do that. So I think, there's some advantages to if you're a park hopper, just because this works across park hopping, which is nice. Which I know for FastPass Plus, at least your initial 3 had to be for the park you were going to be in. It wasn't until you actually hopped to the next park you could use stuff. So it's nice. I think that's a good C.
If you had hoppers, could you book a fast pass before you keyed into the park, or did you have to be in the park itself to book a fast pass? I was never a hopper, so I never really tried doing that.
So I know because you had to use up your first 3 before you could book a 4th, or you had to use up the pre-booked ones. You could only do that for your first park. Right. So you kind of had to use those up. And then you could book one, I believe, in another park if you had park hopping.
Even like my scenario is it's 4:00 in the afternoon. You've used your 3 in the old fast pass days. Yep. You're still in the Magic Kingdom. Could you book a fast pass for any of the other parks?
Yes, I believe so. If you had park hopping, as long as you've used up those first 3, you could.
Okay, fair enough. So the Lightning Lane acts similar to that.
Similar. Yep.
Right. In those ground rules. Okay, I think we're going to be talking about this a lot, but until what is it, the 19th when it goes live?
So a little over 2 weeks.
We have a Discord friend of ours that's going to be there when it goes live, so we're going to be watching people squirm a little bit in the parks and figure things out.
I'm glad I'm not the guinea pig, but I will be following the guinea pigs.
You know what? I would have loved to have been there the day that it opens just to see if I could abuse it, because no one knows it's going live. I'll be able to check off all Lightning Lane.
I know. I feel for all the people that show up that don't pay attention to anything, and they're on the day one like, wait, what's going on? But
I think it would have been the same though. I don't think anybody would have. I think they were like, what is this on my app that wasn't there 3 days ago?
Yeah.
As they're arriving, so. I don't know.
That is one question actually somebody asked on Facebook, and I answered them. They're like, I'm not tech savvy. Is this something new I have to download? My understanding is it's all within the My Disney Experience app.
Should be.
My guess is you'll get a notification that you have to do an update to the app, but it's all within the one app. It's not something new you have to also have.
I imagine it's going to automatically update, and it's just going to appear one day, and it's going to be, they'll push it and it'll update itself, unless you have it purposely turned off that auto updates on your phone type of thing. And anyway, if you're not tech savvy, that feature's probably on because it's always been on and you never really turned it off before. Yep. Okay. What's our social media, Phil? Let's get on to
our social media accounts. Twitter @PodDBC, Instagram, the DBC Podcast, Facebook, DBC Pod, and of course the YouTube channel, which a reminder again, subscribe and comment on this video if you'd like to be entered into the contest. And of course our Discord server.
And then Phil will get in touch with you in any way that you like to get your address and all that other type of stuff. Please don't post it in the comments, just in case you were wondering where you have to put it. It does not. Your address and personal information do not belong in the YouTube comment section. Please, we don't want to be responsible for that. Okay, so yes, Attractionality this week this was a fun one. I thought it was. It's a small world. Another acronym I note immediately recognize when somebody puts it in there. Like it's IASW. What is that? Oh, it's a small world. I get it. I always forget that it is because I don't need an acronym for it. It's just small world.
I just said small world. Yeah, exactly.
And that's it. I gotta scroll all the way down for this. So, the happiest cruise that ever sailed. Sing along to the classic anthem of the world's peace during a delightful musical boat tour. Cruise along the 7 seaways waterway on a gentle 10-minute journey through all 7 continents. Is it really 10 minutes? Somebody timed it. It's actually 10 minutes. I've never timed it before. Pass through the vivid, fantastic.
Does it feel longer or shorter?
It's like not 10 hours. Fantastical scenes representing the iconic sights and sounds of dozens of nations. Behold a cast of dancing darlings for nearly every corner of the globe, and watch the audio animatronics figures achieve universal harmony as they sing one song in many languages. By journeys, and you're absolutely crazy and out of your mind, and be escorted out of the park to the nearest hospital. Okay, so are they really audio animatronics? Do they really count as audio animatronics?
They technically do in the simplest form because they actually were powered by audio, so that's what they were. But obviously, they're not modern audio animatronics.
So, in true attractionality tradition, first question to you, Phil, is how much do you like the concept of this attraction, dark ride in a boat? Essentially.
Well, it's funny. The full wording of this was, how do you like the concept of a dark ride in a boat through children of the world singing a Sherman Brothers song of peace and unity? Because it's like, oh no, I'm not for peace and unity. I don't
no,
like that. No,
absolutely not.
So obviously, I love the concept of this. It's a little hard to sort of distance it from the history of the ride and knowing its place at the World's Fair and everything that it meant and stuff like that. But I like the concept. We always it's kind of a must ride for us. I gave it a 4.
I gave it a 4 too, only just based on the concept. The concept is it's a dark ride and it's in the Magic Kingdom. The Magic Kingdom needs more dark rides. I like dark rides, right? I think it's perfect for all kids. It's not another roller coaster. It's anything else. I think if anything, Disney needs more dark rides and more of the Belle story time or Tales with Belle or whatever. I always forget what it's called. Storybook with Belle, whatever it's called.
Enchanted Tales with Belle.
Enchanted Tales with Belle. Yes, thank you. So yeah, I give it a 4. I have nothing against a dark ride in the form of this attraction. So question number 2 to you, Phil, is how well do you think It's a Small World delivers for its target audience? I don't even know who the target audience is for it.
Yeah, so
I'll let you interpret that yourself.
I was viewing the target audience as people like myself who love the history of the ride, but also small children. And this is what I really thought a lot about with this ride is how much my kids, when they were like infants, loved this ride. How they they just couldn't believe everything going on and their faces darting from side to side and pointing and smiling. So that's who I'm viewing as the target audience. And so for me, it's a 5.
Okay, so I didn't go exactly 5. There's a couple of reasons. I gave this a 3. I have the same target audience in mind. When my daughter was going through this ride, she's waving at the little dolls and having a good time, and she absolutely loved it. But in order to get a 5, it has to be on par with some of the other rides that she absolutely loved, like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. That is a 5 on delivers for the target audience. So does A Small World deliver? I don't think so, because there's other rides that deliver better. So I'm holding it in context of everything that's out there, right? Does it fail to deliver something? No, because the ride brings joy to small children and they love it, right? But it doesn't bring them, I don't think it brings them excitement and wonder either. It's fun, it's light, it's interesting, blah, 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 but I don't think it delivers. On an extreme count, it warrants a 4 or 5. And by the way, we're going to look at these scores again. On question number 1, everybody said 5 about the concept. And then question number 2 is kind of split between 5 and a 4, and with almost the remainder going on a 3. So question number 3 is, how much do you personally enjoy It's a Small World?
Yeah, this was where the the scores got a little lower. I still gave this a 4, although, like I said, we ride it every trip. It's kind of a tradition thing. It's just really fun. And like I said, some of it is the nostalgia factor of watching my kids' faces light up watching it. So for me, it brings me a smile to my face. It brings me joy. So I gave it a 4.
I think as my children get older, I can already see my daughter, who is 8, start getting bored of this ride as she's going through it. And my son, who is 6, still kind of likes it, but you can kind of see him turning on it and wondering what's happening next. It's one of my wife's favorite rides. She loves it. My mother loves this ride. She'd probably rate this a 4 or 5. It is tradition. You have to go on A Small World when you're in Walt Disney World, right? Yeah. I mean, like, how can you not? It's part of the Disney codex, so to speak, right?
Yep.
I mean, you would be a heathen if you wouldn't go on it and suffer through the darn song every single time that you're on there. Do I personally enjoy it? No, I gave it a 2. Here's why. Actually, I'm going to lump my answer in with question 4 because they as often with me, they're linked together. So question 4 is, how well do you think It's a Small World fits into the Fantasyland and the Magic Kingdom? Phil, I'll let you go, and then I'll wrap it up.
So this one, I actually gave a little bit of a lower score compared to what everyone else gave it. I gave it a 3. And the reason is, and it's probably one of those things I never really thought about because it's always been in the Magic Kingdom. So it's like, of course it fits in the Fantasyland of the Magic Kingdom. But if you think about everything else in Fantasyland, it's all about putting you into a movie that Walt Disney created. And Small World isn't that. It's more of a reality thing. It's the real countries, it's the kids dressed in the garb of those, at least stereotypical for those countries. It really doesn't fit in Fantasyland. So I wasn't really sure where to rate it. So I gave it a 3. It might make more sense if it was in like World Showcase in Epcot or something like that. But it's also like hard to picture it anywhere else. So in the end, I gave it a 3.
You're segueing into all my points, which is excellent.
Okay.
That's why we've been doing this for as long as we have. I don't know. Well, first of all, I'm going to critique you, Phil, because I'm going to what are you thinking? Like you're saying it doesn't fit, yet you give it a positive, at least a somewhat positive score of a 3. So this is your first chance to give it a 2 to some kind of attraction like I did, because I gave this a 2, and here's why.
Okay.
So 2 for the last 2 questions. You can see them highlighted here if you haven't guessed already. If you're watching this, all my answers are highlighted in red, so it's spoilers for you out there in our viewership. It does not fit at all in this attraction because, or in Fantasyland as a whole and Magic Kingdom broadly. Fantasyland, like you mentioned, it's all about Peter Pan and Winnie the Pooh and Belle and castles and all this other stuff. That's nothing with Small World. 2, it doesn't fit in the Magic Kingdom at all because it's not an attraction that brings you excitement or fun or, let's say they opened up a Small World yesterday. Right? It doesn't have the nostalgia. It doesn't have the history of the art and Mary Blair and the World's Fair and the ties to Walt and all this other stuff. You'd be like, other than the varied construction on what it looks like compared to current day Disney attractions,
sure.
right? So ignore that point too. You'd be like, what does this belong in the Magic Kingdom? Because it doesn't. It doesn't represent fantasy and adventure or whatever. As the closest place would be in Tomorrowland for whatever, Tomorrowland is where everything's peaceful and everybody's happy and singing. But like you mentioned, this belongs. You need to take the show building, pick it up, place it in the World Showcase somewhere. Shove it somewhere near the American Pavilion or maybe at the it would probably take all the views away, but somewhere in there because it's about culture and celebrating a world and all this other stuff, which would go really well with the message of Harmonious. Which, by the way, I watched a second time with the kids, and we could talk about that later, I guess. That being said, rip it out of Fantasyland, put a really cool Mickey and Minnie's Runaway. Did we talk about that like a week or 2 ago? Again, I
forget if it was there or on Discord, but we talked about like kind of shifting everything around or whatever. But.
Well, we definitely talked about it on Discord. I think like every time Fantasyland comes up, I mention ripping out something and moving it somewhere else, right? But yeah, we definitely talked about it on Discord. So I gave this a 2. I don't know what's going to take for me to give it a 1. I think I actually absolutely have to hate the ride to give something a 1. But I don't personally enjoy it. The song is annoying. I hate looking at the ceiling in this place because it's, 50 plus years old at this point in design. So anyway, that's my feeling on it. So follow-up question. Actually, no, there's no follow-up question because the follow-up question I had in mind was what would you replace it with if you needed to move it out of the way, or where would you put it? We covered all of that already, so we don't have to do that. Now, just a offhand comment, we got to make sure we remember to do the DVC recommends because I would definitely want to talk about that. So let's leave some time after your last part of your trip report.
Okay.
But I also, because piggybacking on for last week's discussion about Harmonious, as people's opinions are settling in, as people watch it a second time, as people that haven't been in the parks have probably found a better recording of than the Disney Parks blog viewing of it.
Correct.
So here's my view is I watched this last night, I think, with the kids because they hadn't seen it yet. And I, as much as we like to giggle at the Diz and some of their shows and their podcasts and their reviews, Craig does an excellent job with his videography and a lot of these fireworks shows. So if you know the Diz, go over to their YouTube channel, and they've got an awesome view of Harmonious, and that's what I watched the other night. And I like the show. I liked the show when I saw it the first time, even though the viewing angles were terrible on the stream. I liked it probably 10 times better watching it head on with a stable point of view. I didn't realize that a lot of the effects of the Stargate above it showed up. Like there's like floating waves above when there's like the Moana part. There's like some waves floating in the smoke. I didn't catch that the first time. A lot of the effects that kind of go around the different tacos and the Stargate that you don't miss because I miss because the angle is too sharp into the video screens. But if you take a step back and kind of look at it at kind of a wide view, it is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous show. And I think a lot of people are missing the message of the show. And I thought first time I saw it, I picked up on the message, but it didn't slam home for me. But just watching it and without the anticipation of what it is, and just watching it relax and stuff like that, you just pick up. It's just a celebration and a joy of music and cultures. And there's no story. There doesn't need to be. It's just like we're all human. We all make art, and it's a lot of fun. Be cool, man. Enjoy yourself. That's it. That's it. There doesn't have to be a story driving it. So a lot of people I think
I view it as almost more of a theme. It's not a story like a beginning, middle, end. It's basically, like you said, this theme of we all have music and it unites us, and it's a way to connect with each other, where even if we speak different languages, we can connect through music and stuff like that, and putting it together with really cool technology and stuff like that. So yeah, I fully agree. If you've only seen the live stream, watch another video. And if you are still kind of down on it and you're going there, give it a chance. It's really cool in person. There's so much going on. It's a different show for Disney. It's very different than like Illuminations or something like that, but different isn't bad. So give it a shot. I really liked it.
I watched clips of Enchantment as well, and I remember the first time I saw Happily Ever After in 2017, I wasn't immediately in love with the show. It took subsequent viewings for it to sink in, and I think these shows will start sinking in with some of the people as the nostalgia or the memories they have in their mind that are attached to the other shows kind of fade away, or it's being replaced.
Always try to remember the first day after Happily Ever After came out, people were complaining because it wasn't Wishes, and now people are complaining that Happily Ever After went away.
Give it time. Don't be a hater. And these are people that are passionate about putting this together, so they weren't trying to cheap you out of your whatever. So, that being said, we have to take a look at your Universal trip. I'm trying to find your notes. I made a mess of our show notes. Okay, so let's talk about this. So you plan the trip. You're like, okay, we're gonna go to Disney for the 50th. We're gonna show up the day before, and then the trip that we described yesterday. And then at some point, you added Universal. I remember you talking about it on the show. We had a guest on to talk about Universal and all that other stuff. So let's remind the audience why you decided to add on Universal to your trip.
So I had been toying with the idea of adding it to one of our trips for a little bit. I haven't seen any of the Harry Potter stuff. I hadn't seen a lot of new things. And to be perfectly honest, I think the thing that pushed me over the edge was Velocicoaster. Just how it looked, how the rave reviews for it. I think that, and also with Hagrid's coming out too. So now there were kind of two must-do rides or things that were really drawing me in. And when I was looking at the schedule for this trip, we were going to have to pull the kids out of school anyway. We were going to travel down on a Wednesday, so they would have been out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I was like, you know what? Let's just have them out the week and add on a few days at Universal. So now we're down there full week, full trip. It's not just rushing down for the 50th and back. And it didn't take much convincing to my wife to do that. So that's what we did.
So now remind the audience the cadence, the day you got there. It looks like you had 2 park days and then the transfer day to Disney World. Is that correct? Yep. So 2 days and 2 travel days, essentially. 2 and 2?
Right. So, yeah, exactly. So we got there on the 26th and then transferred on the 29th. The plan was to do that, to have 3 nights in the hotel and then have 2 full park days. Universal was running a special where if you bought 2 days tickets, you got 2 free. So we took advantage of that and did spend parts of our arrival day and parts of our
Smart.
leaving day in the park as well. So we had 2 full days plus, 2 half days on either end.
So you stayed at Portofino Bay, which, if you remember from our Universal show, you get the Express Pass because it is. Does Universal call them their deluxe hotels?
They call them their premier.
Yeah. So you got that. So talk about. You arrived, you got down there. How easy was it to get? We're going to talk about the hotel just after this, but like, how easy was it to check in, and then get to the parks, right? Because it's different, right? Because you're just kind of out there. It's not like you're not in a bubble, so to speak, in Universal.
Right. Yeah. So we got dropped off. We got online to check in. We hadn't. There was just a little bit of a line. We got in. We found out our room wasn't ready. We weren't expecting to be. We were there pretty early, about 10:30. So we checked our bags. They have like I guess the equivalent of a guest services area where you go, because at that point we didn't have our tickets or anything. It was all a package. So we go over there. We had to wait a couple people and give them our reservation number, and then they find all the information and they give us our tickets. They give us our room keys or have the express pass on them. So now everybody has 2 things. We have our park ticket and our room key that has the express pass. So we all have that. We had checked our bags. We kind of organized the bags a little bit. So we had a bag to bring to the park with, sunscreen and stuff like that. Checked everything else with the bag claim area. And then we headed out to get to the parks, which for the 3 premier areas, there are boats that can bring you there, or there's a walking path. It's about a 15-minute walk from Portofino Bay, which of these 3 hotels is the furthest away.
Okay.
Or you can wait for a boat, which comes every about 15 minutes. We found that they were a little bit quicker and more common kind of in the mornings and in the evenings. Midday, you had to wait a little bit more. But you basically take that and it drops you off right in the middle of City Walk, which is their equivalent of Disney Springs, downtown Disney, except it's right by the front of the park. So if you're actually a guest who drives there, you basically park at the parking lot and have to walk through City Walk to get to the parks. So kind of picture Disney Springs where the TTC is or something like that, where you have to kind of go through all the shops to get to where you want to get to the parks. And so what we did was we got some food because we hadn't eaten lunch yet. We just went to a couple of the fast food places in the area at City Walk. That was one thing we found too. A lot of the restaurants were only open for dinner time.
Okay.
So there wasn't as many options for lunch. And then we went over to Universal Studios. We kind of didn't want to spend too much time there. Just because we were pretty tired. It was an early flight. Just kind of get our bearings and just kind of make sure how does the check-in process work and stuff like that. And so we ended up checking out the Springfield area, rode the Simpsons ride, got some of the specialty drinks at Moe's Tavern, some of the Duff beers that I got my mug for.
Nice.
And then after a little bit, we got notified that our room was ready. So we headed back to the resort.
Okay, so you didn't do too much. So back at the resort, give me your impressions of the premier resort versus, let's say, the contemporary, with or a Bay Lake Tower stay.
So the resort was really nice. Very classy. It's got a lot of marble Italian setting. It's set up like an Italian coast village around a marina or a bay area. Lots of kind of individual buildings to some extent. So we actually had to go out of the main lobby area and go over to another building where our room was. So I guess a little bit maybe like the Polynesian. You don't have the big sweeping lobbies like you have with, say, Animal Kingdom Lodge or something like that. But it was very nice, very high-end looking, and the room was quite large, one of the biggest bathrooms I've ever seen. And we overlooked the pool. We just had a regular standard room. We overlooked the pool area, and we were pretty close to the boat dock, which is what we requested. So it was good. Overall, it was really nice, really good service. I personally would probably put it a notch below, say, the really high-end Disney ones, like an Animal Kingdom Lodge or something like it just didn't have that feel to it. But it's pretty close. It's definitely well above a moderate, and it's comparatively priced to a moderate at Disney.
Fair enough. It said on the first day you had an evening at the pool. How was the pool bar, and how were all those activities? A lot of people wonder, when you go to Disney, you're staying on property, you have resort days. You take advantage of that. Did this hotel give you the opportunity to enjoy a resort day if that was what you wanted to do?
Absolutely. I can't speak to the other resorts, but this one absolutely did. There were 3 pools, but one kind of main big pool area. And one thing is, it was all fenced in, so you kind of felt safe, like the kids weren't going to run out. It had a 0 entry area, but it also had real sand. So it had like a sand beach.
Oh, very nice.
A lot of lounge chairs were in there. So you really felt like you're kind of in a vacation area. Excuse me. One thing that I liked was they had their bar kind of casual restaurant was like inside the pool area. So inside that fenced in area. And they had a really nice menu. We wound up, because we were enjoying it so much, we just spent the whole evening there and got dinner there.
Oh, that's great.
But they also had servers that literally came right to your like lounge chair, and like you could order right from them. They bring you your drinks. You order your food. We got food there. The food was really good. Drinks were really good.
Reasonably priced for Orlando?
The drinks seemed about, kind of what you expense from a theme park or whatever. Food was maybe a little pricier, but you're kind of paying for the convenience, I get. And it was pretty solid food. It was maybe like a hair expensive versus what I would expect. But it was just it just kind of felt like, okay, now we're on vacation, right? Like we're sitting there. I got my tropical drink in my hand. My feet are in the sand. My kids are playing in the pool.
Wonderful.
And it was just, that's how we kind of decided to end the day.
Okay. So I want to go through it because we got 2 days at the parks. So how do I want to do this? Because we are time restricted, and maybe not a lot of people are familiar with Universal, so it's hard to kind of take a tour around the parks when you're not familiar with it. So day 2 was your Harry Potter day. So I want to talk about 2 different things. Extremely well themed lands. I mean, Harry Potter's old hat at this point, as far as what Universal's done. It's been around for what 8 or 9 years now.
At least for the first one,
like
yeah.
So it's not like no one listening to us has never seen an advertisement for it, right? So we're always. So what your initial impressions of that versus like a Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, coming in from like, I guess the reverse angle of it, and being at Galaxy's Edge more recently than Harry Potter, and then getting closer to God by riding Velocicoaster. I remember your reactions to that on Discord. And then I want you to talk about actually finding good pizza in Orlando, because you made that comment for dinner. So let's start with the theming and like your reaction to that, because you got a taste of Universal. Everybody thinks Universal is just like an amusement / theme park with a lot of their stuff, to hitting up probably the most ultimate themed area in North America.
Yeah. So first thing maybe I'll just mention quickly was our tickets were the park-to-park tickets, which is kind of the equivalent of park hopping at Disney. So we were able to go to 2 different parks and hop between them. One of the reasons that's important is that one of the Wizarding World attractions, the Hogwarts Express, where you get to ride the train, goes between the parks. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have that hopping ticket, you're not allowed on that attraction. They check all your tickets before you get on. The other thing about that is it really makes them feel almost like one big park. It's not like, when we planned our day, it wasn't like, oh, today's our Epcot day or today's our Hollywood Studio days. It was like you just go to the park and do what you want. You pick one to start at with whatever you want to start with, and then you go to the other. So it's probably a little bit more like Disneyland in California that way. So the other thing is that by staying on site, you get early entry to one of the parks each day. Ours was to the studios, and it opens up the Wizarding World early to you. So that day we got in, we went into the Wizarding World, which over there is the Diagon Alley part. And the first thing we did was we got online to go to Ollivander's to get wands. My oldest daughter already had a wand. The younger 2 had to get wands. Walking into the area, I'd seen tons of videos, tons of pictures. It really does do it justice. It's really that well themed. It's that well, like there's lots of little like nooks and crannies to wander in. Every single store is themed. There's lots of like little effects, like smoke coming out of one thing, or obviously the big dragon that breathes fire.
If I had to describe it, I would say it's very intimate versus Galaxy's Edge is a little bit more open and more. It's different. Let's just put it that way. I don't think it's better or worse. I just think it looks very intimate, like you're there.
Yeah. So we got our wands, and then we rode Escape from Gringotts, which is the big ride that's in Diagon Alley, which is a fun ride. It's kind of a mixture of screens and roller coasters and stuff like that. You walk through the Goblin Bank and stuff like that. So it's really neat, really cool effects. Then we spent some time. Then we got breakfast, and then we spent some time with the wands, which are really just fun. Like you could just spend all day. There's so many little spots where you can do things, and some of them just make a little thing change or something, but some of them have like pretty big effects that go on. One thing maybe I'll mention now is later on we saw characters out in the area. It wasn't like Harry Potter. It was just like people that would have lived in that area. And so they would come out and kind of be in character. They were helping the kids with the wands. At one point there was the Death Eaters came out and they were like doing wand duels with some of the kids and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on in these areas. It's not just the buildings, they have different performances. They have the frog choir and stuff like that. So it's what
cool. Galaxy's Edge would have been if they actually spent a little bit more money, you're saying?
Yeah, it's kind of different because, I really appreciate all the details in Galaxy's Edge. I love seeing all the ships, all the movement, all the sound. So in some ways it's very similar. Obviously, it's not a place as well as Hogwarts or whatever, I do think, there's some characters out in Galaxy's Edge. It feels like there was more promised. There was like stunt shows and stuff that were supposed to go on. So yeah, I do think they've done probably as much as they can with these Wizarding Worlds. They've kind of done as good a job as they could. As much as I like Galaxy's Edge, I feel like they could have done a little more.
Here, before we move on to Velocicoaster and your impression of that and dinner, I just want to say when Epic Universe is open and they've got Nintendo World I'm assuming they're doing the same thing they're doing over in Japan with your bracelets and the interaction with them where you can break the blocks and you get the little coin noises and stuff like that. Disney needs to answer with some kind of props, and it can't be the thing that you buy in Avengers Campus where you just kind of go on the one ride with the web slingers.
I know there was rumors or stories at one point they were going to have something that would let you use the Force in Galaxy's Edge, whether it was you're going to have to buy the equivalent of a wand or whatever that would let you do it.
Of course they
didn't, but they didn't. I think something like that would help a lot.
Yep. Okay, so you went on Velocicoaster that first full day there.
Yes.
You were over head over heels with it. Go. So what did you think?
Yeah. So we'll mention we did go over to the other part and rode Hagrid's, which isn't comparing the two. It's not as big of a coaster, of course. It's one of those rides where it reminded me similar to what you said about Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway, where it just makes you smile. Like it's just a well done, fun ride. This one's a little quicker. You're zipping through the forest and stuff like that, but like kind of all the hype about it. I do think some of the animatronics could be a little bit better, but other than that, really fun ride, really well done. Velocicoaster is like the ultimate roller coaster without being like crazy, that most people couldn't ride it. It is just so well done. There's like, it's the whole premise of it is that you're at Jurassic Park and they built a roller coaster inside the raptor pen and now you're riding it. So it's kind of meta that way.
Sure.
But you're kind of zipping around, you see the raptors and stuff like that. Really cool effects even in the queue. And then you go into this second part where you just have a secondary launch and you go up the big top hat and you can see for miles and miles and miles. And then it comes down super quick and you do the barrel roll over the water, and I'm probably not even using the right terms, but it just never gives up. It's just really fun and really quick. And it's now my son's favorite ride ever. And he did it 4 times, twice in the front row. So nice. He's kind of a crazy everybody got a kick out of it because he's 9, but he's small for his size. And everyone's like, look at that little kid in the front row. Like they got a kick out of it.
That's fine. So you actually got pizza. Rebrief. Was it actually good pizza or was it good Florida pizza?
I thought it was good pizza. I thought So we wound up having dinner at Vivo Italian Kitchen in City Walk. Probably I haven't been to some of the higher end Italian places at Disney, but the best Italian I've had in Orlando, and the best pizza I've had. It was really the margarita pizza was excellent. The only thing I would have said I would have preferred if the crust was a little more charred. It was a little light. But it was good, chewy crust. Like I would eat that pizza kind of any day. So I'm not going to say it's the best pizza I've ever had in my life, but it was good pizza and by far the best pizza I've had in Orlando.
And this is a guy coming from New York State, not too far from New York City. So it's like the gambit when somebody from the Northeast is talking about good pizza and they're not from like Pennsylvania or something else like that. It's high praise, or at least.
I mean, Via Napoli to me is like mediocre pizza. This was better than Via Napoli.
But there you go. Okay, day number 3, you're doing the Jurassic Park stuff. You're doing evening. You had a note here on evening park. So touch upon the Jurassic Park area and what that's like, and nighttime at the parks.
Yeah, so the Jurassic Park area is really fun. There's a lot of different things. They have this fun interactive thing where you can meet one of the raptors, which obviously, like a puppet type thing done. The guy running it was really funny. He was kind of, I guess, supposed to be like a Chris Pratt type thing, but he had some really funny lines. I think my favorite one was, if the raptor gets loose, you don't have to be faster than the raptor. You just have to be faster than the guy in Crocs. So that was really fun. The ride itself is, the main river ride is fun. You do definitely get wet on it. But it's just a nice area. It's not nearly as well done as like Harry Potter and that sort of thing, but it's a nice area with a number of things to do.
Is it on par with Toy Story Land?
I'd say Toy Story Land's still a little more themed when you think about, the imprints on the ground and stuff like that. But, probably not too far below that.
Gotcha. And how are the parks at night? Because I love Disney parks at night, no matter which park it is.
Yeah.
Or is it just the same, or?
It's similar. They're not open as late. I mean, at least most of the time, they're not open as late as Disney parks. And they started in the fall. They were doing a show projecting things onto the Hogwarts castle. So it kind of felt like almost everybody was going over and waiting for that. And then you kind of had like other people sort of around just finishing up the other things they were going to do before the park closed. But one of the things I did want to try to work out was to ride Velocicoaster again at night, which we did, and that's the time I rode front row. So front row in the dark on Velocicoaster is like the greatest.
Oh, now we got to do it now. I got to get down there and do it. Okay, so wrapping up your Universal trip, there's a couple overarching questions that you kind of wrote down, and these are ones that I would have written down also. I'll just list them off. You can kind of put it in one big answer. What did you think of Universal overall when it comes down to transportation to and from the parks, the food, the access to it, doing it with and without the express pass that you got with the stay at Portofino? Because I don't think we mentioned that earlier. Is this going to become a staple of your Orlando trip now, not your Disney trip? And you also wrote, would you do a Universal only trip? So comment on, do you need more than 2 days to do it?
So overall, we really liked our time in Universal. We found it very easy to do, probably at least in part due to the Express Pass. Express Pass, they don't have that for Hagrid's or Velocicoaster, so we did have to wait in lines for those. But like everything else, you're just skipping to the front of the line. It's great. The food that we got was solid. Some's better than others, just like at Disney. Pricing on the food was similar to Disney. They seem to do a little bit more for their annual pass holders. So I think if I was a local or somebody who went down 3-4 times a year, I would be tempted to get an annual pass for there. Okay. Their pass prices are very reasonable and they do a lot of extra stuff. Overall, we really liked it. I think the individual areas and the individual attractions are fantastic. I would definitely want to go again. The difference I see kind of comparing it to Disney is I want to go to Epcot to go to Epcot. I want to go to Animal Kingdom to go to Animal Kingdom. Whereas here I'm like, well, I want to go to the park that has Velocicoaster to ride Velocicoaster. It's not the parks itself. But knowing how well this kind of current group of management and design folks did with these individual lands like Harry Potter, it gets me very excited for what they can be doing with Epic Universe.
Yes.
That now they're doing an entire park from the ground up, everything they've learned from that, everything they've learned through the pandemic. I think it could be really, really excellent.
I think this could be a turning point in the Orlando wars, so to speak, the tourist wars, right? They're building a traditional park. It's a hub and spoke park. They're going to have separate lands. It's going to be set up so each area is themed. Because Universal is kind of sprawling, I want to say. It's kind of laid out type of thing. Yep. It's like you'd any other Hershey Park or anything else that you're used to. It seems they're building a huge park that's built to be a place that you want to go to, like you mentioned before. Like you said, I want to go to Magic Kingdom as a whole is an attraction in itself. The music, the smells, the sights, and all this other stuff. And I think if Universal can capture that somewhat for their new park, I think Disney's going to be caught, with their pants down, so to speak, because they're going to have nothing to answer for it. And if Universal can match the price point better than Disney to make it more economics, because Disney's just going up, right?
Yeah.
So what's happening is the tickets to Walt Disney World are probably going to go up slower now, but they've built in a $15 per person charge for the Genie Plus stuff, right?
Exactly.
So that's your ticket increase, right? That you're going to see. So we didn't raise prices going from into 21 to 22 or whatever. Yeah, you did because you added Genie Plus to everything, right? I personally have to do a split visit myself to kind of judge it, but would you do a Universal only type of trip right now that's kind of like your family vacation, not like we're going to go down for a weekend because we decided it was going to be fun and we kind of just last minute-ish type of thing?
For now, I still feel like I'm a Disney fan more than like a Universal theme park fan. So I can't imagine going down there and not going to Disney, like only doing Universal.
Mm-hmm.
Not to say I couldn't, but that's probably not. I would definitely do a split stay like this again. I don't know if I would do it every trip or every other trip or whatever. I definitely would. And I think by doing it less often as an add-on, I can more justify staying at the deluxe resort, which their prices are, it's more than a value at Disney, but it's about comparable to a moderate, maybe a little more. But the key thing is with those is you get the express pass. And I think that makes it worthwhile. And I know you're talking about the extra $15 at Disney, but at Universal, if you buy the express pass on its own for the 2 parks unlimited, depending on the day you go, it's like at least $100 on top of your ticket. Some days it's $300 on top of your ticket.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a lot. Obviously that helps justify the cost of staying at the deluxe. So that's why I think I would do it. Maybe every other year we add it on, we stay at the deluxe for a couple nights and kind of get it out. Now, once Epic Universe opens, depending on what that is, maybe that changes our tune. And now maybe we would do a Universal only trip. But I think until Epic Universe comes out, I don't think we would.
I'm totally with you on that. I definitely want to do a split stay after our trip is done on February because, as we've been saying, I'm rethinking the whole do I need to be on property type of thing. Mm-hmm. And it's really tempting to stay at like a place like Portofino's, get the cheapest premier hotel just to get that express pass and do it upright. I think that's kind of the way to go. All right, I appreciate your trip report. It was excellently done. It was a good trip. I mean, I was surprised how fast you put it together. And you planned it, but it was kind of like ad hoc, right? It wasn't set out to be Universal/Disney trip. You kind of pieced it together. You did it. Yep. It was really fun watching you or listening to you go through that type of thing, especially tacking it on to the 50th. And that was actually, I'm amazed at how good people had it that weren't there for merch and like other stuff, right? Just like a normal Disney vacation. I think I'm jealous about how great of a time you had during it. Okay, that being said, we're way over as usual, but we got to do our DVC recommends. I came on Discord last night, and the recommends is the Muppet Haunted Mansion show. I don't care if you're a Muppets fan or not a Muppets fan. This was phenomenal, Phil. Phenomenal. Yep. I got done watching it. I'm like, why can't we have more of this, but for like every attraction, right? Like, it was basically Gonzo going through an invite to the Haunted Mansion, and he basically went through the ride, but the ride itself had all the different stunts and show scenes and music and everything else like that. It was just like if the Haunted Mansion was real and you were going to a tour through the Haunted Mansion. It was awesome.
It was excellent. So many like Muppet puns. I almost lost it when they got to the ballroom scene, and they're doing, if people who watch the old Muppet show, there was a recurring bit where there are couples dancing and they're having these little conversations, and there's usually bad puns among them, and they had a bunch of those there. It was like merging the old Muppet show with the Haunted Mansion. It was just so well done, and I agree. I really hope they do some more of these. This was really good.
I think we could have had a half-hour episode, like a Loki episode on this thing, just kind of pointing out all the cool stuff. But it's great for the kids. My kids enjoyed it, right? When I had a 3-year-old that was actually engaged throughout the whole show, so she wasn't like wandering around because she was bored. She was actually pointing out, we saw that type of thing. So the kids really liked it. Especially it's obviously perfect timing for it because of Halloween time. I don't think you need to save it for like Halloween or anything else like that. It's not specifically Halloween other than it's just spooky stuff, right? So it's not like...
I guess it takes place on Halloween, right? Because the other Muppets are having their Halloween party. or whatever.
But like,
so
it's not overly like a Halloween story, right?
It's more about the Haunted Mansion. Yeah.
Yes. So like, don't feel guilty of watching it now when you have 2 weeks to Halloween. It's. I know somebody was saving it for like closer to Halloween. It's like, you don't have to do that. It's really good. So, because I don't want you get spoiled. Maybe we're spoiling you right now. I don't know. I hope not. but no, if you've been on the Haunted Mansion, I don't think you could spoil anything with the show because it's basically a ride in Muppet TV show form.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna end it there. Thank you for listening. Make sure you remember to like and subscribe and comment on this episode for your chance to win the giveaway. And I don't know when we're going to announce that. Maybe next show, or maybe we'll give people some time to kind of put it in. So maybe 2 shows from now. We'll
see how we're doing. You know, and if we get there really quick and it's working out well, maybe I'll come up with a second giveaway to keep getting more people. We'll see.
That's a tease, folks.
It's a tease. I'm a professional.
That's it. Again, thanks for listening, everybody. We'll see you next week, and have a good one. Take care, everybody.
Bye, everyone.